Good evening, and welcome back to Dash 28 Live. I'm your host, Mike Adkins, and tonight we are going through the first round matchups of the upcoming Mountaineer GT, held in wild and wonderful Martinsburg, West Virginia. That is coming up this weekend. It is kind of like the OG of Mid-Atlantic GTs, and I think we might have record turnout this year. We got a full 44 players. Should be a great time. TO'd, of course, by Chris Fisher of Troll Horde Games. I'm sure he'd appreciate you checking them out if you have any Kings of War product type needs or hobby supplies that you need. It's a great store. Check it out. With me this evening, we got Brad Park. Hey, Brad.
Hello, hello.
Hey, Steve Forster. And Eric Schaefer.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Always good to see you guys. So without further ado, because I know people aren't here to listen to us jabberjaw too much, they want to get on to the pairings. Let's proceed. But first, I want to make one thing super duper clear, and that is that this is for entertainment purposes only. Things said on this matchup cast are not meant to be taken seriously, are not actual analyses of your personal player skill or any other qualities about you. We are simply having a good time. Poking fun at our friends, building a little bit of heat for the event and some hype, and generally having a good time, getting everybody in the right mood. So don't take anything we say too seriously. Predictions for these sorts of things are rarely much better than a coin flip, so by no means is anyone like an expert on any of this stuff. And like if people say harsh things about your list or your chances, don't take it personally. We're just kidding around here. And if you're interested in doing one of these things in the future so that you can also say bad things about people, let me know. It's always fun to rotate folks through. So, with the disclaimer out of the way, let's get started talking about Mountaineer. So, first, we've got like 18 different armies represented, which is a really good big spread. But strangely, we have like 5 Order of the Green Lady armies.
That blows my mind.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Don't know.
Marcelo does well with them at fourth at Masters with Green Ladies, and
everybody's
see that.
jumping on the bandwagon. And then 5 ogres as well.
Yeah. Well, two ogre lists finished in the top 10 at Masters, so I could see that.
Yeah, that's not entirely out of the question. We've had multiple 6 ogre lists, I think, at one of the events last year in Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah.
So it's
pretty popular.
It's always popular. I think the low model count nature of ogres always makes it popular for folks. It's easy to pick up and switch to.
Yep. Easy to paint.
Yep. Next cohort is dwarves, forces of nature, and salamanders, none of which are a surprise. And of course, Northern Alliance, who just got a little rules update and some new models, so kind of expected to see a lot of those. 3 abyssal dwarf lists, which is easily 2 more than you expect to see. And then only a couple of goblins and only a couple of sylvankin. Kind of interesting. And undead have fallen all the way down to last, with only one player keeping the faith on the undead, which used to be one of the top, probably 3 most common.
Yeah, they were super popular.
They were.
Last of those represented. There's a handful not here.
Yeah,
it's true.
My elves. Oh, where are they? Where are my elf players, man?
No elves, no regular elves, and only a couple of sylvankin. Very, very interesting. So in terms of list composition, average drops is coming in at 14, which is right about where you expect. Min is all the way down to 11, and there are a couple of 11 drop armies going really slim. And max, of course, we got some goblins, so there's going to be some 20 plus, unit drop armies out there. In terms of unit strength, average once again coming in 23, right about where you would expect. And the min here at 15 is a bit on the low side. Max again at 29, also kind of what you expect to see. If you see goblins in the list or rats in the list, you expect to see at least a couple of big unit strength armies. Yeah. All right, so now for the most interesting and relevant slide for everyone. What the hell does the map look like? So Chris put in the players pack that we're going to be playing Pillage in the first round. I believe he stated that we will be putting one objective in the exact center of the table, and then each player will be putting down 3. And then he picked a map that has a water feature directly in the center of the table. You bastard. I guess I'm playing Forces of Nature, so that doesn't bother me that much, but I'm sure some other people are going to curse his name for that. But yeah, this is one of the standard Epic Dwarf maps. This is map number 8. So for anybody who wants to get some UB practice games in, I think you can search for all the Epic Dwarf maps in UB. This will be map number 8. But otherwise, it's a pretty fairly spread map. You got a forest on each side, touching the deployment zones. Hills are kind of central. You got one obstacle kind of on each side of the table. The impassables are a little bit imbalanced, but otherwise it's a pretty good map. So there you go. Now our panelists know all that they need to know to accurately predict who's going to win every game.
Yeah.
So with
all
that,
22.
That's right, all 22. So with that in mind, let us proceed to table 1, which is me versus Bill Goodrick. This is a challenge match. Bill pinged me and it's like, hey, do you want to play first round of Mountaineer? And I was like, yeah, because I often play Bill and I haven't actually seen him for a while, so I kind of like that he asked.
Nice.
So this should be fun. Bill's gonna bring out the new Northern Alliance, and I'm of course sticking with. Well, this isn't if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This is more like if it is broke, but the rules committee hasn't fixed it yet. Stick with it. Kind of.
It is broke, but it works.
Yep.
So
Kind of list. Check. So Bill is playing a 13 drop and 22 unit strength Northern Alliance list. He's got some half-elf berserkers. He's trying out the new Hearthguard regiment. He's got a couple of hordes of human tribesmen, some tundra wolves, double frostfang cavalries, Thane with Talinar standards, this new Clarion character who has the cool ability to just pick somebody and make them frozen, and a Lord on Chimera. I feel like I've played basically this list of his as Varangar before, or something pretty close to it anyway. And then over on my side, this should look pretty familiar as it's a fairly standard Forces of Nature loadout these days. Whole bunch of air elementals, Glade Walker kitted out the way you would expect, regular Druid kitted out the way you would expect, Karis, some fire elementals, some earth elementals for a thick chaff, and some woodland critters because I just think they're hilarious to have on the table. So there we go. There's table 1, and let's go ahead and start with Brad. Brad, what do you think about this match?
So I think the talking from the Northern Alliance side first, Mike, you and I had a pretty pretty not competitive game at ACO where you taught me how Surge works. That being said, this Northern Alliance doesn't really have much in the way of a ranged thing. So Karis's gun is going to have maybe less impact than normally being looked for. But there are a couple things with Thunderous that are going to come in. I think the Clarion choice is interesting. There's only 2 melee things that are really going to make strong use of Tundra Fighters. There's one Frostfang unit has Tundra Fighters, the other one does not, and the Lord has it. I think technically the Thane and maybe the Scald have it, but they have minimal attack, so not a huge impact. So the Clarion choice, unless it's just to apply Frozen for the speed debuff to posture positioning, feels like that benefit could be leveraged more with a bit more Tundra Fighter in there. And I also think the Force of Nature just has a fair too much speed on them for Clarion speed debuff to matter a tremendous amount. And with both forces being melee predominant, I don't know if we're necessarily picking winners yet or if we're just talking about the merits of the list, but I pretty much already tipped my hand towards Forces of Nature.
All right, Eric, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a pretty good analysis. I think Mike's Hammer to Miser Force is going to get some mileage out of this. He has a lot of defense 5 stuff. You're going to outmaneuver him for sure. I think Bill's crushing will do pretty well once this gets to a grind. It's really going to depend on how you hit flanks and how well you use your surge. Based on the map, there's some areas where getting into flanks might be a little bit tougher. All in all, I really don't think like the frozen shenanigans really hurt your Forces of Nature list too much. I think it's going to be a pretty fun game. Bill's a great guy and Mike's a great player too. So I'm leaning towards Mike on this one. I think the Forces of Nature are just so strong right now. And this list is absolutely murderous for sure.
All right, Steve.
Yeah, I agree with what Brad was saying, but Clarion also gets a dread, I believe. So that's something that to keep in mind there. Bill is, I mean, he's been playing a long time. He knows how to prevent against those kind of defend against surge. That being said, I don't know if he has the tools to deal with a lot of what Mike's bringing. All that being said, I'm still gonna go with Bill because he's a clubmate, and I'm a homer.
Yeah.
Got it. No problem. But the other two you guys are going with me for this match. Then sounds like.
Yeah.
All right.
Eric, you and I already have the smallest chance of getting that little pink 50 mil.
There you go. I always like it when it's not a clean sweep. I always like it when at least somebody votes for the other person. All right, so that gives us table one. Moving on now to table two. This is also a challenge match. I think this might be a challenge rematch. Are these guys just playing first round at like every GT now? I think.
Until Mark Howard stops challenging Alex.
I think
Yeah,
so.
it hasn't gone well for Mark, if I recall, right?
I mean, you always challenge up, so Mark is definitely challenging up. He's just maybe a couple levels up.
Yeah, the king
Glutton
of
for
challenge.
punishment.
You know what? Iron sharpens iron. So it's a way to get better.
There you go. I mean, that's how I learned how to play this game. I let Alex beat the shit out of me on a weekly basis for several months, and then he won the Masters. So I feel like I contributed that a little bit by being the punching bag. So anyway, table two is going to be Alex Chavez versus Mark Howard. Alex is of course playing dwarves at 15 drops and 25 unit strength, and Mark is playing Sylvankin with 11 drops and 24 unit strength. This is one of our very, very low drop armies. Over on Alex's side, that Hammers of the King formation, you're going to see a lot of that. It's very solid. He's only got one Dwarf Lord on Large Beast. He's got Faber Ironheart, 2 Vanilla Steel Behemoths, and some Iron Guard, and of course, triple Sharpshooters, also a very popular option, and Dogs Throwing Dogs, because you just can't go wrong with Dogs Throwing Dogs. Over on Mark's side, he's got 5 regiments of Glade Stalkers, as you do, a couple of regiments of Stormwind Cavalry, a Greater Air Elemental, just because everybody gets one now. I think that's just how it works. An Elven King, all kitted out with all the toys, and the Wildfather, and a Nimble Tree Herder, which is a very interesting choice. So let's start with Eric. What do you think?
All right, so pillage can be difficult for dwarves. Alex needs to be thinking about scenario right from the get-go because his movement's not fast. It's typical dwarf army. But Mark also needs to be thinking about the same scenario and positioning his Glade Stalkers correctly. I think with Chavez, his shooting's not going to be as effective, especially against Glade Stalkers with stealthy. So that could be interesting, but this matchup, I feel like the dwarves just have too much. The tree man would really need to put in a lot of work here. The tree herder with nimble is awesome. Like I think it's such a clever use of nimble, but I mean Alex isn't going to be falling for anything anything shady with that nimble tree herder. This is a tough matchup for Mark. I hope he has some tricks up his sleeve and has an idea of how to better face this dwarf list. But in the end, man, I got Alex to win.
All right, Steve.
So, like Eric said, with pillage it's really critical. I think Alex is on a countercharge episode recently about specifically these types of missions. So Mark should listen to that. Just to kind of give him a leg up and kind of see. But yeah, it really depends. I mean, it could really skew Alex's way if he gets lucky and maybe gets a side where he doesn't really need to move. He can just have default 2 tokens, and he's stout enough to stick around. Yeah, it's a bad matchup for Mark. But hey, Mark, go listen to that countercharge episode because Alex is in it, and then. Yeah, that's all. That's what I can tell you. But I'm going to go with Alex.
All right, Brett.
I think list to list, you absolutely correct. This is a hard matchup for Mark. It has a tough time getting through that volume of Defense 6, Sylvankin, I mean, or at least the style of Sylvankin. That being said, I think the scenario is in Mark's benefit, forcing things to spread out a bit. And just for the purposes of not making it sweet, I'm going to go with Mark. I'm going to go with my clubmate. We're going to throw a little shade at Alex as well. We just had our recent barbecue brawl where we all come and drink in Mark's driveway all day and play in a tournament. I got some bad news for you, boys. You picked the last place player, Alex Chavez, 0-4 of drinking in a driveway in New Jersey. So back on the wrong horse.
That's amazing.
Awesome. All right. So that is table 2. Let's proceed on to table 3. We've got Battle of the Mikes, Mike Ireland versus Mike Gill. So this is a Ratkin versus Varinger matchup. Mike Ireland, of course, playing Ratkin with a nice 17 drops, 22 unit strength, which is a touch low for what you expect to see in a Ratkin list. And Mike Gill, of course, bringing Varinger at 14 drops and 26 unit strength, which is kind of a lot. You don't often see a Varinger list with more unit strength than a Ratkin list. So over on Mike Ireland's side, he's got his couple of hordes of shock troops, which are kind of standard for him with the plague pots. He's got a couple of Vermintide regiments, some tunnel runners, triple weapon teams, Tangle, double warlocks, war chief, and double brood mothers. Over on the Varinger side, he's got some Draugr for chaff. He's got Night Raiders with bows. He's checking out through Hearthguard with haste, triple fallen hordes, double mounted suns, double snow fox regiments, Skald, Magnild, and Krufnir, which is also kind of a popular choice with Varinger players this time around, which I thought was pretty cool. Steve, what do you think of this matchup?
Yeah, this is. I think Mike Ireland has been playing this type of list for a long time. And again, they should listen to. I think I can highly recommend the countercharge episode where we talk about those. But it's, I mean, the shock troops hordes having the halberds, so they get phalanx is, I think, going to come up pretty big in this matchup because all of Mike Gill's, well, the mounted sons gonna be tough. He's got the shooting. It's not as much long range shooting, but it's kind of that mid range shooting that I'm very used to playing. I like both lists. I'm going to go with Ireland just because of the muscle memory of having the reps of this type of list.
All right, Brad.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go towards Ratkin as well. I think the plague pot mass in the front is going to get it's going to be a bit of a tough challenge for Varinger to chew through. The other thing, just knowing the players here, is the only thing I've learned is a consistency for Gill is rolling snake eyes. So if that holds true as well, another reason to go Ratkin. So I'm going to go another vote for Ireland.
All right, Eric.
One thing I love about Mike Ireland is his relentless dedication to Ratkin. He's been playing him for so long and so many different variations. Like, I feel like he played every single unit in every single army. I think, Ireland's list really wants to grind, but it has enough range to put like pressure on early with a decent amount of shots, but more so when it comes to the grind, like his list can really heal with Eat the Weak. There's a lot of drain life there. And that's, he's putting wounds on himself, but he's healing back a lot of stuff. Mike Gill has a great threat range with the Fallen Hordes, but he's going to have to pick his spot very carefully because of the Plague Pots and the Phalanx. I think this is a really close game, and it looks like maybe they had played this at the barbecue, if I read that correctly. Mike Gill might have beat Ireland, but I feel like Ireland edges out in a close game. I think a late game weapons team is going to be the champions here. I think something's going to happen. Either Gill has a token, but one weapon team just ends it and swings this battle. I think it's the weapons teams.
That is fair. All right, so that is 3 votes for Ireland. So Gil, that means it's time for you to play spoiler and be the comeback underdog. I think this will be a fun match to watch. Probably a very close match. Let's move on to table 4. So table 4 is going to be Bart Kohler versus Ed Fisk. This is a Trident Realm versus an Ogre matchup. Bart, of course, bringing back out the Trident Realm at 14 drops and 24 unit strength. Versus Ed. Has he been playing ogres for long? He usually plays
the first time I've seen them, we had a club day on Sunday and he had him there.
Okay,
nice.
So,
All
but
right.
I think that was the first time he actually brought him out.
All right.
Is this the loudest table at round one? I think loudest
I think
table and most fun
Absolutely.
game.
I think
Yeah,
think so.
I mean, they were actually matched up round one at Mountaineer last year,
Yep.
and they even started early, and there was some tomfoolery.
Oh my god, I was right
pretty
next to
early
him,
on.
dude. My head was just going boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Just
The best was Bart used one of his tournament rerolls to try to get out of a snake eyes and roll the snake eyes again, and that was I'm sure
Yeah.
that measured on the Richter scale
that
somewhere.
was brilliant.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's Bart. I love you, but that is such a you thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Bart's list. He's got the Hidden Ones formation with all the Thule regiments, an extra regiment of Thule thrown in. He's got a couple of Giga Hordes. He's got a couple of Tidal Swarms, double Coral Giants, one Knucker, the Naiad Centurion with the Trident, and the Thule Aquamage. And over on Ed's side, he's got triple Warriors, triple Siege Breakers, double Crocodiles, a Red Goblin Slasher with the Trumpets, a couple of Berserker Bullies, and then the standard Lightning Bolt, Drain Life, Warlock loadout, 3 Warlocks, and Nom Nom. So I think we are back around to Brad. Brad, what do you think of this matchup?
So just with having a fair bit of both of these in the meta for me to play against, the one thing that's caused me more frustration of individual models I keep seeing are those goddamn Croco dogs. I think with both lists not having a tremendous range element, the Lightning Bolt battery from Warlocks, I think being probably the strongest between both lists of some ranged output. They're going to have to meet each other in the middle. And because of that, I think there's a fair chance the Crocodogs get to individuals they normally you wouldn't want them to, as well as the ability for whether it's Berserker Bullies to even the Warrior Regiment starting to get flanks on some of the Ensnare models so that you're able to get through them in one round. I'm going Ogres.
All right. Eric.
So I think let's see. Ed has great range. Those lightning bolts, they really don't care about stealthy. They don't care about individuals. I think the high defense that Bart does have in the Gigas, even the Placoderms are high defense. I think that's going to be a little tough when it does come to the grind for Ed. I feel like there's really good chaff across both lists. I think the key here might be Bart's Coral Giants and the fact that they have Slayer. I think those Giants need to put in a lot of work in this battle. I could see this being a really tight game. I think Bart needs the real smart play on his bark skin and the play with his individuals. I think are really going to be key here. I think Bart takes this, but barring crazy dice rolls as the way these two match up and what I've witnessed in the past with with these two players, it's going to be a fun one and it's going to go down to the wire. I'm going clubmate. I'm going with Bart. But yeah, this would be a fun one to watch.
All right, Steve.
For the same reasons that Eric's going Bart, I'm going to go Ed. That's a lot of lightning bolt and a lot of squishy stuff to lightning bolt. I mean,
Definitely.
he could conceivably take out one of the full regiments in one round of shooting, and he's got the three siege breaker hordes first. A lot of that can kind of mitigate the defense 6 on Bart's. So it will be a real close match and I think it's it could cut Bart's familiarity with listless where Ed doesn't really have reps in with ogres yet, but yeah, gonna go with be a homer and go with my boy Ed.
All right. Trident Realm do not like getting shot at, so we will see whether the Lightning Bolt does the job or not. Moving on to Table 5. This is Brad Park versus Jordan Balloon. So this is the Northern Alliance versus our first Order of the Green Lady list I think we've seen. Over on the Northern Alliance side, we got 13 drops coming at 23 unit strength, and just one fewer drop, 12 over on the Order of the Green Lady side, 21 unit strength. So slight drop and unit strength advantage for Northern Alliance. Let's see, Brad's list. He's got a couple of regiments of Ice Naiads, Horde of Human Tribesmen, a lone Ice Elemental Horde with Elite, some Frostfang Cavalry with Thunder Fighters, a couple of Frostclaw Rider regiments. It's a new unit. Snow Fox Regiment, an Ice Queen, an Ice Blade, Sarakina, Lord on Frostfang, the Snow Fox, and Hrim. And over on the Order of the Green Lady side, he's got triple Order of Redemption, knight regiments with sharpness, elite, and slashing across them. Triple Order Forsaken boards, all with Sacred Water, and one with Strider, one with for Strength, and one with Helmet Drunken Ram. Triple Pegasus and Triple Unicorn. Apparently, they all come in threes. So,
Yes, they do.
Eric, let's start with you.
All right. So this is like the Northern Alliance. There's so many rules in this list, man. I was reading through it and I'm like, everything has a special rule. I guess that's the way things are going to go. I think Brad should get some mileage out of the Phalanx. I think that's going to be really big against the Order of a Green Lady list that wants to hit and doesn't have a lot of drops. It wants to be hitting you as fast and as hard as it can. Like Green Lady has a lot of muscle, but with only 12 drops, Jordan got to be thinking about objectives pretty early, and those Pegasus might be needed late game, and I'm not sure how much you want them in a chaff roll. That's tough. I just feel like I want a couple more drops out of the Green Lady. I think the difference might actually come down to the lightning bolts of the Unicorn. I mean, that's a decent amount of lightning bolts, and it's pretty easy to line them up and take some stuff off. But this one I wasn't really happy about picking because I know how good of a player Brad is, but I think Jordan has a lot of rest with Green Lady, if I'm not mistaken. I'm gonna go with Green Lady here, and it was kind of against what I had originally thought, but kind of talked myself into Green Lady.
All right, Steve.
Yeah, I like Brad's list because it's kind of a take one of everything or two of everything. There's not a lot of min-maxing, whereas that's the exact opposite with Jordan's list with straight up three of the three best units. I'm actually gonna go Brad. With just because of the mission, because with that speed, it could be the speed is helpful for the Green Lady list, but you got to be like, they don't want to sit there on tokens, so there could be. I think that could be to Brad's advantage. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Northern Alliance.
All right, and Brad.
I mean, I'm not picking against myself, so let's lead with that. As for the game, I think some of the points said earlier are things I'm going to have to try and leverage. And if I get flanked too hard, then it all falls apart, right? Like the Naiads need to be fighting things from the front, but if I get surrounded, then that doesn't do me any good. I need to leverage the Hawks and the Ice Blade to mirror some of the threat ranges to make sure that I'm not only ever getting hit first. But if I can do some or both of those, then I think I get a chance. That being said, between only speed 10 and 8 the list, there's going to be some areas where I have to get hit and just kind of see what's there after they do, right? So we'll see what happens. I think I have tools to try and do it, but it's certainly, as I can't imagine any of these would be, it's not going to be an easy game.
All right. That is table 5. Let's move on now to table number 6. This is going to be Brian Swinson versus Sean McCormley. It's a Free Dwarf versus Sylvankin matchup. Over on the Free Dwarf side, he's got 13 drops and 22 unit strength. Up against Sean's also 13 drops and 19 unit strength. The Free Dwarfs are kind of a Ranger-themed list. He's got 3 regiments of Rangers, one of which is Hernius's Rangers. He's also got Hernius the Hunter. He's got Triple Dwarf Lord on Large Beast for just all the mobile anvil you could ever want. A couple of Jerem Bombards, and 3 regiments of Brock Riders and a troop. So very interesting kind of shoot and scoot kind of dwarf list there. And over on Sean's side, he's got Gladestalker Regiment, Kindred Archer Regiment. Yeah, I left a thing off there. Doesn't he have like 3 Gladestalker Regiments? I think I might have missed.
I'll take a look for real quick.
I think I might have misput a number next to that.
I don't think he has.
No, there's only 2 Gladestalkers.
Only 2, okay.
2.
He's got a Shambler Horde with Awakened Guardians and Burst Strength, a couple of Greater Air Elementals, a couple of Elven Archmages, one of them kitted out with Levitation and Dogma's Cursed, the Wolf Father, and the Wardens of the Sacred Grove formation with a couple of Forest Guards, a couple of Boss Wraiths, and the character that comes with it, kitted out with some fun stuff there as well. Round two. I believe we are around to Steve. Steve, what do you think about this matchup?
And they're both unique lists. Unique in that we don't really see Freeders a lot, and unique for Sean because it's kind of what Sean's been playing for, I don't know, 5 years with his kind of second edition now, third edition Sylvan list. The range, in addition to the the melee range that Brian has with the Brock Riders being real quick. I think it's going to be tough for Sean. As much as I love him, I'm going to go with Brian.
All right.
I think a few of those points I certainly agree with, right? So I think the dwarf on the defense 6 large beasts are going to be potentially tough for the Sylvankin list to get through. Alchemist Curse does a great job of that, but short of the Alchemist Curse and the Wilt Father and the Air Elementals for sure, the rest of the list has minimal crushing and thunderous. So I think they can be real tar pits combined with some of those ranged elements into those targets. I'm also going free dwarves.
All right. Eric.
Yeah, you guys, I'm going to echo some of your points. One thing I love is boss greats. I think they're such a cool unit. I'm not saying they're good. I just think they're fun. I would love to have a whole army of them. But yeah, I feel like this matchup comes down to like the dwarves do have some firepower at range, and I feel like Brian can really kind of pick his spots with those Brock Riders. The Sylvankin list, like you said, it has greater air elementals. They're awesome. A lot of leverage with the Boots Mage. I mean, she can really tear into Dwarf Lords, but I just don't think it's enough. I think the speed of Dwarfs, which sounds crazy in my head, the speed of the dwarfs and just the nimble Dwarf Lords, it's just, I think it's going to be too much for the Sylvankin. I just don't see where the Sylvankin's punch is really going to be coming from. Yeah, it's Brian for this one. Free dwarfs.
All right. That is our second clean sweep. And let's move on to table number 7. Table 7 is going to be Charles Fadouk versus Kelly Wheaton. So this is like a Virginia I-95 rivalry kind of thing. Chuck is bringing Basileans, and Kelly's, of course, bringing Abyssal Dwarves. 14 drops on the Basilean side with 24 unit strength, and 16 on the Abyssal Dwarf side, 22 unit strength. Chuck's list is a couple of regiments of Paladin Foot Guard, some Sisterhood Scouts, a couple of Alohi Hordes, a couple of Alohi Regiments, some Gurk Panthers for chaff, double Phoenixes, and then some characters, an Ogre Palace Guard Captain, and Alohi, a War Wizard Priest. Over on Kelly's side, this is his sort of usual little bit of everything. He's got some Berserkers. He's got some Black Souls, a Grotesque Horde, a couple of mutated Mastiff Hunting Packs, triple rocket launchers, a Hellfane, a Hexcaster, Infernox, a Half-Breed Champ, and then their Damned of Yagar formation with more Immortal Guard with Throwing Mastiffs and another Infernox. Yeah, and I think we have wrapped back around to Brad. Brad, what do you think of this list?
So this one's, I had a really hard time placing where I thought this one would be. I can tell you kind of the direction my thoughts went was when I look for range elements, I of course see all of the rocket launchers and the Abyssal Dwarf list, but then looking across, you have Basilians who are speed 10 the list, so then you start having melee approach very, very quickly, or problems potentially with indirect wherever those combats might be. Though then looking at just the number of different melee drops the Abyssal Dwarves have, so that if you're not one-rounding these things in melee, now you have flanks coming in on the charging Alohi, which are not the toughest things to remove because most of them are just regiments. I honestly, I really had a tough time picking who I think was going to win this. I'm going to go towards Basilians for the sole reason that because they have so many speed 10s with speed 10 units with unit strength, that the late game scenario grab I think is going to be to their benefit.
All right, Eric.
Yeah, it looks like Kelly added some shooting to his classic Chaos Dwarves since the last time I had the pleasure of playing him. I like the Sacred Horn edition. I think given a bigger radius there for the Elite Aura for the infantry. I think his infantry can fight surprisingly well. Yeah, Charles is rocking a very good Alohi list here with some really nice utility pieces. With the AC Mage, of course, 2 Phoenix really are going to help that grind. Obviously, a lot of speed. I might have wanted to see like a Bane Chant being a little bit more mobile, but I'm guessing that's just going to stick around with the Paladin Foot Guards. I feel like Kelly's range needs to hit early and hit hard to make it really uncomfortable for Charles. For the Alohi really to like pick the right spots, because you don't want to just throw a Alohi regiment like directly in front of, I don't know, Black Souls or whatever. I think ultimately it comes down to this scenario for Kelly's downfall. I think like Brad said, late game maneuvering with Alohi could probably be the difference here.
All right. And Steve.
Yeah. Like, I don't know with that if Chuck has the other than beyond a bunch of combi charges, there's not a lot that he can do there that will be able to pop some of these Black Soul, the hordes and regiments in one go, which could be an issue because then you start getting the grind. But he also has the backup grind with the Phoenixes with a bunch of deal. All that being said, I'm going to go with Chuck just because he's a club mate and I'm a homer.
All right. Now that's going to be another clean sweep. If I were voting, I would, of course, vote for the Aristocrat. So, moving on. Also, I play Chuck every week, so.
Oh, nice.
Anyway, I know that this Basilean list does not do well against the Forces of Nature list, but that's kind of all I know about it. So anyway, moving on to table 8, that's going to be Chet Dudek versus Derek Sindstrom. This is one of those matches that this could have been like the final round match at a Mid-Atlantic GT, but hey, they're playing in round 1 instead. So Chet is bringing Goblins at 23 drops and 29 unit strength. And Derek has switched over to Ogres, and he's bringing in a 16 drop, 27 unit strength Ogre list, which is a lot of unit strength here. Going down Chet's list real quick, it is your pretty standard loadout for Goblins, 6 Rabble Horde, some Moglin's Cavalry, triple Trombones, a Mop-Up Launcher, triple Sharp Sticks, a couple of Mincers, Wing It, Grony Snark, who's just so good, a Wiz with Alchemist's Curse, a couple of Troll Bruisers, and a couple of Kings on Chariots. And checking out Derek's list, he has got a whole bunch of Warriors, triple Regiment, double Horde, double Siege Breakers, triple Red Goblin Blasters, triple Sergeants, and triple Warlords. Kind of interesting. I think we are on Eric.
All right. This feels like trash goblins versus trash ogres. I don't mean that as far as like quality of the list go. It just seems like super high drops for ogres with high unit strength, and of course goblins doing what goblins do. This comes down to whether the goblins can inflict enough wounds at range as the ogres just march across the field and destroy everything they touch between sergeants and ogre warlocks. I think there's going to be a lot of dice rolling in this matchup. I think the deciding factor, and I think it's going to be overlooked here, is the fact that one of the Troll Bruisers have the orb. I think Chet takes it because of that single 10-point item. Somehow there's going to be like one warlord standing on a thing, and the Troll Bruiser's going to go over there and take it from him. So I'm going Chet. I believe in the green. Let's go Gobos.
All right, Steve.
Just from personal experience, I play goblins with a similar goblin list, and I usually do really well with against an ogre list like that. The one thing that really that ogres can bring is the lightning bolt, which Derek's forgone for just more combat characters. So there's no ranged that that the goblins have to deal with coming in. And there's so many drops that Chet can just set up and get in a pretty favorable position pretty early. So I'm going to go with goblins.
All right, Brad.
This one's painful. I don't want to pick against club mates, though. As I go through and I look list to list, The stuff that you need to kill to win this scenario would be a lot of the rabble because they sit on a token, and any one of the sergeants and warlords, even two of them, aren't going to win on a unit strength if it just comes down with all of them standing near each other. The Goblin Blaster cards don't have tremendous targets they want to suicide themselves into. Yeah, I got to go with goblins. The shame of it is now I got to listen to Derek tell me why I'm wrong until the whole thing. But yeah, I'm going with goblins.
All right. Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing that the goblins like to see, it's a whole bunch of height 3 shit that has nowhere to hide walking at them.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's gonna be a clean sweep there. Moving on to table number 9. This is also one of those games that you feel like could be like the top table last round, but we're getting it in round 1. So this is Dale Motley versus Mike Austin. This is an Order of the Green Lady versus Northern Alliance matchup. Over on Dale's side, he's coming at 13 drops, 24 unit strength. Over on Mike's side, he also has 13 drops, but only 19 unit strength. Dale's Green Lady list is Regiment of Brotherhood Centaurs, Double Redemption Knights, 4 Order of the Forsaken Hordes, which is just so much points and so much pain. Triple Pegasus, a Mounted Exemplar, and Double Unicorns. And over on Mike's side, he's got a bunch of regiments of Pack Hunters. He's got a couple of Frost Claw Rider regiments. He's got Clarion, Hrim, which are super popular choices these days, it seems. Double Lords on Chimera, and the Talonar's Vanguard formation, which is a couple of half-elf berserkers, and another Frost Claw Rider regiment. So it brings up to 3 of those. And I think we are starting with Steve this time. Steve, what do you think?
This is like the young up and comer and the long tooth veteran on opposite trajectories. Mike being not as active as Dale maybe, but he's still a fantastic player of the game. I like the what the Northern Alliance can bring. That being said, there's not a whole lot of. I mean, oh yeah, there's a whole lot of range. No, never mind. So he's got the range to really to throw those some wounds on the night hordes before they come in, and then enough to that can maybe get some of those wounds to stick. So I'm gonna go with Mike.
All right, Brad.
I also am going with Northern Alliance. I the only thing I wish that was in this list that I'm not seeing is this list has a pretty good ability to put out a strong range presence, both from the Pack Hunters and the Frost Claws. They can apply Frozen with Clarion pretty easily, but there's no Wind Blast. That's the thing I'd like to see is the ability to put Frozen out on something, move it back those 1 or 2 inches, and now you're really winning the threat range game with speed 10 when there's that many Forsaken Hordes. Even with that being said, though, I think this list, contrary to the other Northern Alliance list I was talking about before, really has that weight of Tundra Fighter as well, with the breadth of options to apply it, both Chilling Presence off Rim, Clarion, just pointing at something, any of the Frost Claws, hitting something in melee. Like, this list is going to have Tundra Fighters active near every combat. I'm going to go with Northern Alliance, and I didn't even mention, to Steve's point, the chip damage that the Pack Hunters can get in range, the Frost Claws can get at range. It's I think it has a few things going for it.
All right, Eric.
Yeah, I think Pack Hunters have just taken the crown as the new best ranged infantry in the game. I think they're the new Glade Stalkers. They're priced so well. The 2 Chimeras are awesome. I think Elite and then Vicious, once they're frozen, is pretty sick. I think what you're seeing at Mike Austin's list is going to be the standard for Northern Alliance lists moving forward. I think all lists are going to kind of merge into something similar to this or variation. Dale is a super fast Green Lady list. I'm not sure if he played much of this variant of it, but it comes down to the Frozen. reducing movement, I think isn't going to affect them too much. I feel like the pegs and unicorns, as it is with Green Lady, are going to be the key to this matchup, and it's just going to come down to some clutch play. But can I pick a draw? Because that's kind of where I was leaning. Can I pick draws?
You can pick a draw if you want to pick a draw.
Oh, that's spicy.
I'm going draw here.
All right.
I'm going draw here because I think they both lose enough things to just hold their tokens and call it a day. I don't know, man. This is a really tough matchup. I mean, both. I don't know how much Mike's playing. I know Dale's playing all the time, but it's still a really, really good Northern Alliance list. I think it's great.
Yeah, if Chris was streaming any tables, this would be a good one to broadcast.
That's a way to say that you don't have a lot of confidence in your club mate. Like, can I pick draw? Because I think Dale's gonna lose, but I can't do that. Yeah.
No, I would absolutely say if I thought Dale was gonna lose, I could. Yeah, this is a tough one. This is a good matchup.
All right, so that is not a clean sweep, and our first draw call. So we will see what happens with that. Moving on to table 10. This is Danny McGeehan versus Dave Toth. So this is going to be a Forces of Nature versus Dwarf matchup. 13 drops on both sides. 20 unit strength on the Forces of Nature side. 27 unit strength on the Dwarves. A lot of unit strength over there. So Danny's list is a couple hundreds of the Wild, triple Forest Shamblers, double Greater Air Elementals, double Beasts of Nature with 7 attacks, but I think no wings. Karis, the Glade Walker, kitted out the way you would expect, but mounted. And Kapoka and the Wilt Father. And over on the Dwarf side, 4 regiments of Iron Guard, all with throwing mastiffs, some Berserkers, a Steel Behemoth, and a Galax Fury. Faber Ironheart, because everybody takes Faber Ironheart. A Dwarf Lord on Large Beast, and that Royal Guard formation again, with throwing mastiffs all around. I think we are back to Brad. Brad, what do you think of this matchup?
I think the tools that the Forces Nature list is looking to leverage are not on their full display here against dwarves. The weight of phalanx gives no value. Karis's gun can certainly turn off shooting on one of the Steel Behemoths or Galax Fury, but the amount of mastiffs combined with just Faber's shooting, as well as whatever Steel Behemoth isn't targeted by Karis, is just a volume. And the mastiffs always hitting on 4s means that even if elementals in terrain, if you get too many of them on them, it's just a real pile of damage. I have to go with Gabe. Not only is he a clubmate of mine, he's been playing tremendously well, and I think the list edges on his side as well.
All right, Eric.
Yeah, Brad has some really good points there. I think the throwing mastiffs absolutely got to hit home for Gabe. I'm not a huge fan of Forest Shamblers. I know they serve the purpose in this style list, but without having Phalanx really mattering against this dwarf list, I think he loses some value there. But as it goes with dwarves, like Gabe got to be thinking about objective, especially in this scenario, right from the get-go. So some smart objective play, I think. And I love Gabe's army, by the way. I played him at Battle Pilgrims. It was like one of his first GT. Super nice guy, great player. I mean, he's definitely going to be up in sports votes every time. But yeah, I think it comes down to scenario here. I think if Gabe can get the right objective placements and hunker down, I don't think the Force of Nature list has enough to remove all those dwarves.
All right, so you're going for Gabe.
Yep.
All right, Steve.
Yeah, for all the reasons that the other guys have said, it's just it's a bad matchup for the Forces of Nature. They don't have the volume of attacks to really have a dent in all that defense 6. And so yeah, and again, the way that Dable's set up for where the tokens are can actually really favor the dwarves, so they don't have to move a lot. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the dwarves.
All right, that is going to be a clean sweep for Gabe. Moving on to table number 11. This is going to be Donald Galax versus Joe Borghese. This is Forces of the Abyss. I think this is our only Forces of the Abyss list. Versus another one of our dwarf lists, which of course is very popular, as we were just looking at one. 13 drops over on the Forces of the Abyss side, 23 unit strength. and one more of each over on the dwarf side. On the Abyssal side, checking out his list, he's got a couple of Flame Bear regiments, a couple of Moloch hordes, an Abyssal Horseman regiment, triple Tortured Soul regiments, which is fun, a couple of Fiends, a Seductress with Gnome Glass Shield and Hope Shadow Beast, and Zazuzu and Beola. That's kind of fun. And then over on the dwarf list, I think this is kind of Joe's standard dwarf list that he's been playing lately. 4 Iron Guard regiments, all with Mastiffs, triple Sharpshooters, Berserker Brock Regiment, Mastiff Hunting Pack, Galax, Steel Behemoth, Faber, and double Dwarf Lords, all on large beasts, which is so good. Eric, what do you think?
Yeah, I feel like this Force of Abyss list is kind of has an old school feel to it, right? Flame Bearers, Abyssal Fiends. I really like the Succubus Gnome Glass Shield. I think that's an awesome piece to add to this list. Zazuzu, I think I would have liked to see maybe one Gargoyle troop just to keep wounding them so they can boost up their lightning bolt and then just regen the gargoyles back. Real cheap way to get that engine going. I probably would have liked to see that in there. But all in all, it's a pretty cool Force of Abyss list. I feel like shooting on both sides is similar in volume, but I think the Mastiffs and the Sharpshooters kind of have better targets than the Lightning Bolt Abyss do, and the bolts from the Flame Bearers. But some focused shooting, I definitely could put a dent into the dwarves. I think once the lines meet, the dwarfs are going to be tough to move. I think the dwarfs on large beasts are going to be really important in this matchup. They need to be carrying a pretty heavy load so that they can start removing some of the Molochs and the Abyssal Horse Regiment, perhaps. Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty close, but I definitely got to go with Joe and his experience with dwarves. He finally found an army that he loves, and I got to go with my clubmate on this one.
All right.
So Donnie, just like Danny from a couple tables ago, are old War Machine players that I've been on teams with for years. I giggled as soon as you put it at the table. I've never heard him called Donald in his life. He's always been Donnie. So that was just caught me by surprise. But even with knowing him for years and knowing his proficiency in other miniature games, I am also going with dwarves. The shooting output's too great. The 2 dwarf on large beasts, I think, also mean that the ability to run 14 on a round 5 or round 6 to grab a point is something that some of the other dwarf lists didn't have. I think the shooting is going to overpower Donald.
All right. Steve.
I have a lot of experience with this matchup because I play a very, very similar form of Force of the Abyss. And it's a pretty, I think there's not a real, it's kind of a toss up with the, how strong it is. I mean, Joe has I think has the advantage just because he's played this list, for a good part of a year and it's done very well with it. But I do love the Force of the Abyss list. I think it's a real strong build. I'm just going with Joe just for the reps and Joe being very proficient with this list.
Yeah, it's not really what this Forces of Abyss list wants to see. It doesn't really want to see a defense 6 wall that shoots back. All right, so that is a clean sweep for Joe. And this is table 11. So this is our midpoint of our 22 tables. And it's not quite 9 o'clock yet.
Nice.
Suck it, everybody that takes forever to do these. Table 12. So this is yet another one of those. This could be the top table in the last round of any Mid-Atlantic tournament. This is going to be George O'Connell versus Mike Zettelmeyer. A Salamander versus Salamander match, which something good is happening in Salamander land because I don't know that there's ever been a Salamander on Salamander match at a Mid-Atlantic tournament ever because there's usually just one. So that's cool. So 13 drops over on Georgia's side and 29 unit strength, which is just so much. And we'll see where he's getting them from here in a minute. And then 12 drops over on Mike's side, 18 unit strength, very elite over on Mike's side. So Georgia's Salamander list is 6 hordes of Scorchwings and a couple of Phoenixes and a couple of Mage Priests. And the infantry kind of doesn't matter. They're just there to stand on the back line like Gecko to Warrior hordes. Sure, They will sit on objectives and hold them. Ancient Regiment, awesome. They'll stand behind them and keep them inspired. They're not going anywhere, but it's not going to matter because you have to deal with 6 Scorchwing hordes coming at you, backed by 2 Phoenixes, before you worry about engaging that infantry. Oof. But Mike Zellmeyer is an outstanding player and has a lot of practice with this list, and he will definitely give George hell. So I just got to throw that shout out at because, Mike's in my club. So double Fire Elemental hordes, double Rhinosaur Cav hordes, double Greater Fire Elemental, which is a really good piece. Commandant for a little bit of shooting. An Ancient Phoenix, Mage Priest with Optimus Curse and Fireheart. A Clan Lord mounted with the Torque. To turn off one of the spellcasters for a round. Battle Captain on Rhinosaur and Rakalis, the Pale Rider. Steve, what do you think of this matchup? Salamanders, probably?
Yeah, I'm going with the Salamanders. Mike has a lot of experience running this list. It is real elite, but it's really hardy because it's all Fearless Nerve, and the stuff that isn't Fearless Nerve is 1820 with Rakalis. He does, but that being said, it's a lot of Scorchwings. I don't know. George has a couple good rounds of shooting, plus a round of shooting, and you can take off, the what's not in the range of the Veil of Shadows.
Yep.
Yeah. This is, if I were to pick draw, this would be the one I would go draw with, but I don't know that Mike has the solution to 6 Scorchwings. That's a lot of Scorchwings, so I'm going to go George.
All right.
Anytime I've not been able to land on who I think is going to win, I just lean towards what's more mobile for the scenario. So with that in mind, I'm going to go with the Scorchwing list. Forget the faction, just Scorchwing's the list. But combined with the ability to shoot, to kind of pick your battles, with the Salamanders across from not being the absolute fastest, to back up and shoot maybe 2 rounds before you have to start committing into melee, combined with late game presence, I'm going to go with George on this one.
All right. Eric.
Yeah, this is definitely a battle of 2 different style lists. Scorchwing spam, it's all about being smart and being patient. George is going to get a lot of shots off and be able to pick his spots and then envelop. Zed will have to be really relying on that Veil of Shadows to try to negate some of that shooting, and force George in a bad decision or two, because Zed has some shooting of his own. It was some fireballs and a Phoenix, and they can put some wounds on Scorchwings for sure. But that said, you're going to need to bring your A game, and Zed's a great player, and I think on paper you look at these 2 lists and you're like, oh, the Scorchwings might just eat this up, but never count Zed out, man. He's a really strong player, and so is George. This is a tough one, but I just think George and the Scorchwing spam might be just a little too much for this lower drop Sally list. They are tough. There's a lot of defense over there on Zed's side. But again, it's just that mobility and being able to pick his spots. I think George takes this one. But I know if you look on UB right now, I bet Zed just fired up UB and has George's list.
That's what I was about to say. This is
there's 3 games going on right now with Zed's name on it.
My phone is blinking uncontrollably, and I will bet that is my club chat. Zed asking who's ready to jump on UB.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is
George,
where
Zed's going to be ready, man. So bring your best.
Yeah, this is going to be the cue, the 80s montage of Mike just sitting at his computer for the next 3 days playing 100 UB games.
For sure.
Oh, man. All right, so that is a predicted clean sweep for George. We will see what happens there. Moving on to table 13 as we continue through the back half of the table. This is going to be Joe Freda versus William Goodzinus. This is a Northern Alliance versus our only undead army. 13 drops over on the Northern Alliance side and 23 unit strength versus 17 drops and 27 unit strength over on the undead side. Looking down the Northern Alliance list, we got a little bit of everything. We have some Dwarf Clan Warriors, we got some Ice Kin Hunters, we have a couple of Hearthguard regiments, some Ice Elementals, some Snow Trolls, some Tundra Wolves, a Cavern Dweller, an Ice Queen, Clarion, a Lord on Frostfang, and a Frostfang Champion. Just a little bit of everything here and there. Over on the undead side, he's got a Zombie Regiment and Zombie Horde. He's got 4 troops of Wraiths, which are just one of my favorite thick chaff units in the game. Mummy Regiment, Zombie Troll Horde, a couple of regiments of Revenant Cavalry and a troop of it, a Gorblight, a couple of Rev Kings, and a couple of Necromancers. And we are around to Brad. So, Brad, you've recently been playing Undead. What do you think of this matchup?
I like the 4 Wraith troop. I think that is um, a great thing to get in the way. It has the speed you want to engage quickly. I think my complaint is what then you're delivering behind it is melee for the list. So a lot of wild swings on how often you'll get to hit, and then factoring in potential hindered charges through terrain, only making that worse, especially with Revenants. Mind you, one has Jesse's boots, but Revenants having all of their damage coming through on Thunderous, making that terrain a little bit harder as well. On the other side, you have Northern Alliance with I think the Hearthguard as well have Tundra Fighters on them, which combined with the Frozen and Crushing 2 will be able to get through those defense 5 or 6s. I'm going to go with Northern Alliance here. I think between Alchemist Curse and just the native Crushing combined with just generally a higher melee 3s across some of the melee units at least, push me towards Northern Alliance.
All right, Eric.
Yeah, I think this is a really nice mixed arms approach to Northern Alliance here. Packs a decent amount of crushing and really wants to fight. Will brings a pretty decent amount of unit strength for an undead army that has like actually really quality units. It's not just kind of like a zombie wall. I feel like the Wraiths are going to play a huge part in this game. That defense 6 might be able to just get in the way and really muck things up. I think Lord on Frostfangs and the Frostclaw Champion might be giving some headaches on the flanks to the undead, but I mean that's why undead have Surge. So surprisingly, I hate playing against undead. I always have, but I think I'm going undead here. I think just the sheer amount of drops in the unit strength. I think they play the scenario just a tad bit better.
Okay, and Will did correct me. He does have 2 hordes of zombie trolls. Steve.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't know if the undead have the enough equality attacks to really grind well. A lot of hitting on 4s, and yeah, that could swing down as well. It could swing up, but yeah, I'm gonna go with the Northern Alliance. I think the Alliance grinds a little bit better, hits a little bit harder on a more consistent basis.
All right. So that is 2 for Northern Alliance and 1 for Undead. And that will bring us on now to table 14, where we have Adam Ortle versus Joey Creek. This is our only Ratkin Slave army versus one of our Varangur lists. 13 drops on the Ratkin Slave side and 22 unit strength versus 1 less of each over on the Varangur side. Looking down the Ratkin Slaves, we got a couple Hordes of Nightmares, a couple Regiments of Tunnel Runners, a couple of those Death Engine Impalers, a Missile Half-Breed Champ, Gulak Skinflayer, Kryza's Special Gore Impaler that overruns like it's still playing Warhammer. And then the lowest of the low formation with a whole bunch of Slave Warriors and a Taskmaster Unchained. Over on the Varangur side, he's got a couple regiments of Human Tribesmen, a couple of Mounted Suns, some Thunderwolves, Frostfang Horde, a Frost Giant, Double Magus, Magnil Krufnir, and a Lord on Chimera. I think we're starting with Eric this time.
I don't know what's going on with either of these lists, to be honest. Like I played both of these.
I'm not first.
Yeah, I played both of these guys this year actually, and none of their lists look like this. And I don't know what to make of it. I think Varangur just packs a little bit more combat punch. The Ratkin Slaves have a lot of tricks, and they can blow up units and do all types of crazy shit. But I just don't know if Adam will have enough units left at the end to even grab some objectives. Joey's really good with Varangur. I was lucky to beat him in an online tournament, and where he completely had me slaughtered, and just luck went my way. And Joey's skill here with Varangur, I think, is the ultimate trump card against the Ratkin Slaves. But God bless, I don't know. It's a wild one. It's different.
All right. So you're going for Joey.
Yeah.
All right, Steve.
Yeah, I know Adam's playing this list for a long time. It's a really cool in Army with like the underground stuff.
Yeah.
But Joey's got a like Eric said, it's got a lot of reps with this list. I think that they could take a hit to a lot of the more gimmicky stuff that the Raccoon Slaves are giving out, and then it's going to be punishing on the way back in. And Joey's I'm a homer. Joey's in my club, so we'll go Joey.
Fair enough. All right, Brett.
I'm not ashamed to say that I'm pretty new to Kings of War. I'm about 3 months in so far. So in those conversations around what do you see, what's the best things in the game, you also hear the other side of that about what is not played, what do you never see, and chief among them are Raccoon Slaves, just generally considered not a good faction. And you look through, and sometimes it's pretty easy to see that. That being said, if someone has the confidence to commit and grind, there has to be a reason for it, and the secret sauce that they've landed on within that faction. And for that, without knowing really a whole lot about them, I'm going Raccoon Slaves.
All right. So that is not a clean sweep then.
I also, real quick, before we move on to the next one, because I'm new to the game, I don't know the players. So player skill to me is even every matchup.
Yeah. Both really good players. And the list that Adam played, I swear it was different than this. I know he's been playing like Raccoon and Raccoon Slaves for a long time, but I just don't remember some of these units. But yeah, it'll be a fun one.
It's definitely a fun looking army.
Yeah, for sure. I love the look of it.
It's a cool army.
Yeah.
All right, let us move on to table 15. This is John Medaglia versus Cat Breuer. It's going to be a dwarf versus salamander matchup. 14 drops and 21 unit strength on the dwarf side versus 13 drops and 24 unit strength on the salamander side. Oh, a little shade from Boehner there. John's list is a couple of regiments of Iron Guard with Mastiffs, triple sharpshooters, double Earth Elemental hordes, a Mastiff hunting pack, God's Fury, and a Steel Behemoth, Stone Priest, and then double Steel Juggers and Faber Ironheart. And then over on Kat's side, she's got her double hordes of Unbloodeds, an Ancient Troop, Tyrant Horde, a couple of Scorchwing hordes, Rhinosaur Cav, Greater Fire Elemental, Ancient Phoenix, Mage Priest, Battle Captain, and Rakawas. Steve, what do you think of this matchup?
Yeah, it's. I don't know if Kat has the Scorch Rings are great. I don't know if she has the real quality attacks to break through some of this, this sticks stuff. I think it's more compact. So yeah, I'm going to go with the dwarves.
Okay.
I think round over round, we or at least every time they show up, we keep going over the merits for why dwarves are as good as they are. But somehow it doesn't change. Even this list, which is a pretty wild departure from some of the others with 2 hordes of Earth Elementals, still has a lot of the same things you would look to leverage between the 2 Steel Behemoths, though one's Galax Fury, a handful of Throwing Mastiffs, the Sharpshooters, combined with a Wall of Defense 6. So, the composition may change, the names of who's playing it may change, but dwarves are good, and I'm going to go with dwarves again.
All right. Eric.
Yeah, this is a real solid dwarf list with a lot of defense 6. Scorchwing shooting is obviously diminished by that defense, that high defense, but they are super mobile, and when they get into flanks, they're a real pain in the ass. And she does back it up with a Bane Chant, which could really put some wounds on some defense 6 stuff. The Tyrants and Rockets, they just have a lot of work to do to clear these dwarfs off of objectives. Smart objective play is the key here. That said, I think I'm going to go with John. I just feel like it's too much defense 6 for Cat to manage, and there's a lot of good dwarf range shooting here in the Steel Juggernauts, and Mastiffs and Sharpshooters. The Phoenix is going to be both Phoenix are going to be really busy hitting those heels. So, yeah, I'm going to go with John here.
All right. So that is a clean sweep for the Dwarves. We will see how that match turns out. Moving on to table number 16 now. Justin Lingle versus Keith Baker. So it's going to be a Forces of Nature versus Ogre matchup. 12 drops of very elite over on the Forces of Nature side with 19 unit strength and 13 drops of 23 unit strength from Ogres. Keith, I have to apologize. You had to play me first round in Atlantic City, and now first round of Mountaineer, you have to play basically that same bullshit all over again, just piloted by someone else. So sorry, man. So Lingle's list. He's got double hordes of forest shamblers, double hordes of earth elementals, a scorchwing horde, triple greater air elemental, druid, glade walker druid, kitted out like you expect, a unicorn, and the wilt father. Very elite, very deadly, very hard to shift, very hard to get away from. Over on the ogre side, he's got a shooter horde with elite, triple warrior regiments, triple siege breaker hordes. Dale just showed up. Boomer chariot regiment with a sacred horn. A red goblin bigot with the loot for Bane chant. And then the lightning bolt drain life battery of triple warlocks and nom nom. So Brad, what do you think?
I mean, from the game you guys played at ACO, I know it's certainly not an easy game for the ogres, but I really like the weight of ranged attacks here. From the shooters and the lightning bolt battery, the hang up is Force of Nature on this scenario has the ability to play far wider. I think for the ogres to do what they want here, they have to prevent flanks on those siege breakers, which means they're then playing pretty tight, not necessarily playing to the scenario's strength. That being said, you have to commit onto the ogres because of shooters and lightning bolts are just going every round. The range game is going to win out for ogres. It's tough to say. I think with the table in mind as well, there's not a lot of blocking terrain in the center, which I think could potentially swing it towards ogres with the range they have in this. So I'm going to go with ogres.
All right. Eric.
So I'm pretty familiar with both of these lists. Langle kicked my ass with this list when I was preparing for Masters with my elves, and I think Keith whooped my ass at ACO when I had 4 a.m. blackjack drunk, felt like I was going to die the next day. I'm pretty sure we played. I think we played. I played an ogres list. It might have been him, and it kicked my ass too with Empire of Dust. They're both really good lists. I'm really, like I said before, I'm really hot on ogres right now. I think they bring a lot to the table in this meta. Langle is just been so solid with Force of Nature, pulling a second at ACO, right behind Mike, and I think Langle's due, man. He's been flirting with podiums for so long, and he just honed in on Force of Nature, and he's playing it really well. Of course, ogres bring great range with their lightning bolts. I think if Keith starts hitting early and really pressuring the Force of Nature list, I think it could be a bad for Langle in a way. But all in all, I think ogres are great, but Force of Nature is a super strong counter to them right now. So I'm going with my clubmate Langle. I think maybe some early lightning bolts could apply pressure and change that, but yeah, Langle for this one.
All right, Steve.
Yeah, my frequent opponent GT's Langle. Yeah, he's got I think he's got the tools to kind of mitigate some of the early warlocks. I mean, like you said, if he can apply some of the pressure, maybe take out a greater air elemental like real early to put some pressure on. I'm gonna go with, I'm actually gonna go Keith. I think he has if he rolls hot, this early turn with lightning bolt. He can, again, we can see a turn 1 or 2 greater air elemental down, and that's a huge, would be huge. So yeah, I'm going to go Keith.
All right, that's 2 for Keith and 1 for Lingle. Keith, at least he doesn't have Karis, so something going for you. Moving on now to table 17, coming into the home stretch of the last few tables here. Is going to be Marcelo versus Kai. This is an Order of the Green Lady off to see who's the greenest of the ladies or the most orderly of the greenest ladies. I don't know. But, with that many Order of the Green Lady lists, you figure there's going to be at least one order-on-order matchup. And here it is. So 13 drops over on Marcelo's side, 21 unit strength, and 12 drops and only 15 unit strength over on Kai's side. Very lean, very elite. Marcelo's list, he's got a regiment of heart piercers. He's got double Order of Redemption Knights. He's got triple Forsaken Hordes, triple Pegasus, Avatar of the Green Lady, and triple Unicorns. I'll kit it out a little bit differently. Over on Kai's side, he's got triple Heart Piercer regiments, a horde of Order of the Brotherhood Knights with the Crystal Pendant, an Order of the Forsaken, a Greater Water Elemental, a Beast of Nature, another Avatar of the Green Lady, so I guess we'll find out which one is the real Avatar of the Green Lady, triple Unicorns, as you do, and the Champion of the Green Lady, special character. I think we're on Eric. Eric, what do you think of this matchup? Green Lady? Probably Green Lady?
Yeah, definitely Green Lady. Is that Order of the Brotherhood Horde the most expensive unit in the game? I feel it's like 405 points.
Pretty close.
That's amazing. I love it.
A lot.
I think it's a great thing. Green Lady versus Green Lady. I think Marcelo has the edge here. I feel like his list is just more polished, and he's been playing it really well. I just don't think 15 unit strength gets it done in this scenario. I think Marcelo has enough speed to endure any shooting that the heart piercers can put out. And if he does get into the heart piercers and knocks them out pretty quick, that's 6 of the 15 unit strength that Kailis has. So yeah, I think it's a solid win for Marcelo here, unless, I don't know, could the horde blow up everything with the crystal pendant? I don't know. But yeah, that's a that's a wild list, man. I'm so happy that there's a horde of Brotherhood on the table. I think that's great. But yeah, I'm going for Marcelo here.
Okay. Steve.
Yep. I'm going to also go Marcelo. He's got the tools with the triple Pegasus to really chop up that horde of Kai's Knights. I mean, they could just be fighting unicorns and Pegasus all game and it not really have an effect on the game. So I think the units, like Eric said, that is central units are more polished. We got with the triple Forsaken Horde and the double Redemption Reg. So I'm gonna go with Marcelo.
All right, Brett.
Yeah, so I played against Kai at ACO, and the thing I learned quickly there is if you don't have a very strong range presence, dealing with that cavalry horde is a problem, right? It requires a multi-charge if you actually intend to kill it, which is exactly feeding into the pendant strength. That being said, we noted the low unit strength. That's obvious, though. Beyond just that, of the 12 drops, near half the list, 5 of the drops have no unit strength. So there are 7 scoring units and 7 scenario points to be scored. In order for you to win max in this, not only do you have to basically table your opponent, but lose nothing with the unit strength for this list for Kai. I think the scenario is against him. If this was a dominate, I think there's a chance that Kai could do it. To have him forced to engage that cavalry horde, I think scenario is swinging me towards Marcelo, though.
All right. That is going to be a clean sweep for Marcelo. All right. Table 18 coming up. It's going to be Alan Boehner versus Joe Ferry. This is a Forces of Nature versus Trident Realm matchup. With 13 drops over the Forces of Nature side at 19 unit strength and 15 drops on the Trident Realm side at 21 unit strength. Checking out Boehner's list, he's got double Water Elemental Hordes, double Earth Elemental Regiments, double Greater Air Elementals, double Druids, Avatar of the Green Lady, the Glade Walker kitted out the way you expect, and the Nature's Wrath Air Elemental formation, just the way you expect to see it, with Brew's Strength and Hammer Measured Force on the Hordes. Over on Joe's side, he has a whole lot of Thule. He's got the Hidden Ones formation and an additional Thule Regiment. He's got a couple hordes of Gigas, a horde of Worm Riders, triple Leviathan's Bane, a Centurion with the Trident, Ector, and triple Depth Horror Eternals, which are actually pretty good scenario pieces. And I think we are at Steve. Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, Beaner had to dabble in some Forces of the Abyss before he came running back to the Forces of Nature nonsense. Yeah, it's a real polished list. Beaner plays it very well, has some really good success with it. I don't know unless Joe can get real lucky early with the Leviathan's veins and kind of maybe pop an air elemental horde turn 1 or turn 2. But I think the Allen's list is just too polished and too together. So I'm gonna go Vader.
All right, Brad.
I think how I was talking last round, how there were 7 scoring or units with unit strength. This is even for both of them, even with the different amount of drops and total unit strength. So the thing I was looking at is, at least for this table, the terrain that will block line of sight is not the most tremendously relevant. So unless you can get to those Leviathan's Banes, they have a real chance to be shooting the majority of the game. And because of that, I'm actually going to go towards Joe. I think the Leviathan's Banes might be able to steal a game over a game long amount of shooting.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, you don't having played a similar Forces of Nature army against a War Machine heavy opponent, you don't really want to have a greater air elemental spend 3 turns killing War Machines, but you don't really have anything else to commit to it either. All right, Eric.
Yeah, I think this is a tough matchup for Joe. I know he's playing the overpowered Trident Realms, Masters winning faction. But Beans is just so good with this list. As much as I love the bolt throwers, I think they could definitely surprise Beans and put some wounds on early. But look at the amount of heal he has; it's just going to come all. It's all going to come off. I think Force of Nature just outpositions and outmaneuvers and outpunches this list. I do love the Known Glass Shield, Ho Shadow Beast, Aquamage. I think that's a really nice addition to that list. But yeah, at the end of the day, I have to go with my clubmate here. He's hungry. Beans is hungry. He's out to prove something, I think, in this GT. So, yeah.
All right. I kind of expected him to kick the tires on the new Northern Alliance changes. Actually, I'm surprised he went back to Forces of Nature.
He was thinking about it.
Yeah, I expected that was tempting. All right, not a clean sweep. Moving on to table 19, Matt Schenker versus Thomas Strother. This is a Ogre versus Abyssal Dwarf matchup. 15 drops and 26 unit strength over on the Ogre side, and 12 drops and 26 unit strength over on, that's a Mythkin in the formation, is it? Did I mistype it? My apologies. What was I saying? Right, 12 drops and 26 unit strength over on Thomas's side. Checking out Matt's Ogre list. He's got some Red Goblin Rabble Regiment and a Horde. He's got a horde of Ogre Shooters with Elite, double Hunter Regiment, double Warrior Regiment, double Seedbreaker Horde, Chariot, Warrior Chariots, 1 Crocodile Wrangler, a Berserker Bully, double Warlocks, and Nom Nom for the Lightning Bolt Battery. Over on Thomas's side, he has some Black Souls, a Horde, and a Regiment. He's got a couple of Gargoyle Troops. He's got 3 hordes of Lesser Obsidian Golems. He's got a couple of Half-Breed Regiments, an Ironcaster, Brachyparka, and an Overmaster on Ancient Winged Half-Breed, which you don't see very often. Interesting choice. Brad, what do you think of this matchup?
I don't know. I don't want to land on picking draws. I think I'd rather towards picking winners. But I don't see a clear thing that one side is looking to leverage over the other that's making disadvantage or advantage for one of the other players. With that in mind, I do think the Ogre list has a bit more speed on its side to get around the table in those late game plays. I think Hunters might really be a bit of a late game standout with native speed 7 and Pathfinder to potentially run through that central water to get some late game scoring in. Without anything clearly driving me one particular direction, I'm going to go towards the Ogres on this one.
All right. Eric.
Yeah, I think there's good unit strength on both sides here. I think the Scorched Earth may play a huge part in keeping those half-breeds at bay. and the hunter regiment, like you said, with the ensnare could be a super pain in the ass for Tom to deal with. It's a pretty interesting matchup. They both want to fight. I think solid chaff play is really going to be a big part here, which I think Tom kind of has the edge with the gargoyle troops, but I don't think Matt's chaff really goes anywhere. I just don't think Tom has enough punch to move it, and I think it just comes down to simply the amount of drops and late game objective grabbing. I think the ogres take this one.
All right, Steve.
I would like to see Thomas take something to keep to some early shooting, just to apply some pressure, because that's really what his thing's lacking. He just wants to go forward, and I think Matt takes an advantage by hitting on threes instead of fours. It's gonna be tough for Thomas, but I'm gonna continue to be a homer and pick him.
All right, so you're going Thomas.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. Coming down to our final 3 tables. Table 20, Mikhail Conroe versus Warren Royer. So this is another ogre matchup, ogres versus goblins. Didn't we see an ogre versus goblin matchup already? Man.
We did. This is the second one, I think.
It's like deja vu.
Derek as well. Derek and Chet.
Yeah.
Yep.
So over on the ogre side here, we got 14 drops coming in at 24 unit strength. And over on the goblin side, we have 24 drops also coming in at 24 unit strength. So over on the ogre side, we got a shooter horde, triple warrior regiments, triple siegebreaker hordes, with all of the waver mitigation, a boomer chariot troop with a sacred horn to get that stealthy aura, berserker bully, triple ogre warlock, lightning bolt, drain life battery with nom nom and Kuzla and Madfall. And over on Warren's side, he's got 6 hordes of rabble, triple rock throwers, triple mob pup launchers, triple blasters, triple wingets, Grony Snark, 2 bangets, 2 whizzes, and not to be outdone, Magua and Joes. So, what are we over to? I believe we're over to Eric. So, Eric, what do you think of this matchup?
Yeah, 24 drops, 24 unit strengths just cracks me up. I love gobos. This is a really good ogre list. It's going to put wounds on and delete goblin units, whether it's at range with lightning bolts or walks across the field and slaps them in the face. I really want the gobos to win, but I'm just going to go ogres with this. I think the ogres just have too much heat, and as we said in the other ogre goblin matchup, I think it's just kind of a bad matchup for goblins.
All right, Steve.
I've played a very similar list to Warren, and if I were in this situation, I feel real confident picking it. That being said, the goblin list is a very high learning curve, and I know Warren's a new player. It's just real nuance to get good at it. So I just think that the ogres have the tools to kind of deal with it, and just Warren's. I think this is his second GT, so I'm gonna go with the ogres.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, I think the things that we were missing from how we mentioned a moment ago, Chet and Derek. Derek had no ranged output to match any of the shooting that was coming across, and Michael does, right? So I think that's a very, very big key difference in terms of like the turnover turn, a little bit of the positioning game. I also think another difference is Derek only had 2 siege breakers, whereas this list is 3, so a little bit more resilient to shooting than Derek's list was as well. I think those couple things combined can move it back towards Michael's direction. So I'm gonna go with ogres here as well.
All right. That is a clean sweep for a new aristocrat, I believe. All right.
Ooh.
Ooh, and that was table 20. All right. Table 21, Noah Hutton versus Brian Hoffman. This is an Abyssal Dwarf versus Salamander match. Over on the Abyssal Dwarf side, we got 11 drops, bringing it in one of our minimum drop. list of 21 unit strength and 13 drops and 26 unit strength over on the Salamander side, right kind of average there. Over on the Abyssal Dwarf side, we have a horde of Decimators with Elite, Gargoyle Troop, a couple of hordes of Lesser Obsidian Golems, a couple of Half-Breed Regiments, an Abyssal Grotesques horde, an Infernoc, an Iron Caster, Dravak Dalkin, and Braki Barka. And over on the Salamander side, he has triple Fire Elemental hordes, 4 hordes of Scorch Wings, a Greater Fire Elemental, double Phoenixes, Mage Priest with Fire Heart, and 2 Yakota Sky Lords. Very mobile kind of list there. All right, Steve, what do you think of this matchup?
And Noah's been toying around with trying to find the right Abyssal Dwarf list. He's got some reps in with it, over the weekend. It's just I'm going to pick Noah just because I'm a homer. It's just going to be a tough matchup. He doesn't really have the range to match the Scorch Ring to kind of like reach out and touch him before some early nerve checks. It's a tough matchup, but I'm still going Noah.
All right, Brett.
Ryan has been playing the Salamander list, I think, for only a few weeks now, but has been having mountains of success with it. The couple of things I'm looking at are the Decimator Horde. I really do like. I think them with a leader, fantastic. But the Scorchwing shooting, really all the shooting being mostly range 18, means that they can go ahead and shoot into that Decimator Horde, and then be immune to reprisal as well if they're not within the 16 of the walk and shoot for the Decimators. That can be a little challenging with the half-breeds and the gargoyles applying a melee threat range to where the Scorchlings want to stand and shoot. But they're not able to charge all of them, so you can turn over turn kind of shoot into those Decimators to maybe potentially remove them from the table before they have an impact on it, with them only being defense 4. For all those things, I'm going to go with Ryan. He's been playing those tremendously well, and I think Licious has the ability to really leverage a pretty punishing game plan.
All right, and Eric for the swing vote.
Yeah, I really like this take on Salamanders. I don't feel like it's like S tier best list Salamanders can put out, but I think it's a really strong list. Scorchwings will definitely put in work. Fire Elementals are super consistent. Skylords I think are like one of the most amazing pieces in the game. I've made a living off of them when I played Sally's. They're just so phenomenal in what they do and the dynamic that they bring. I think they're really, really good. As much as I like Noah as a person and Abyssal Dwarfs, I just wish they were good. I just want to see them get buffed up. I just can't see it beating the Sally matchup. I just think it's too much for the Abyssal Dwarfs. Maybe perhaps some good positioning, some luck of the draw of somewhere those tokens go, and the Sally's maybe not be able to move the Abyssal Dwarfs off. But I don't see it going that way. I got Ryan here.
All right. That will bring us to our final table. Table 22, it is a Ray off. That's right, we have Ray Shields versus Ray Wyans. Order of the Green Lady versus one of our most popular armies versus Orcs, the only Orc player. So both of them have 14 drops. Order of the Green Lady actually has more unit strength than Orcs somehow at 27 to 24. Ray Shields' Order of the Green Lady list is a couple of regiments of Men-at-Arms Retainers, a couple of regiments of Order of the Brotherhood Knights, double Redemption Regiment, double Forsaken Horde, triple Pegasus, triple Unicorn. I feel like you can just copy and paste that into like every Green Lady list. Oh shit! Hey Paige, what's up, man?
Yeah, he just said that it's nice to see a Green Lady list. I don't think he knows that they're the most popular.
Five
of them at this tournament.
There's 5.
All right, and now Ray's Orc list. I haven't seen Ray play Orcs for a while, but I know he has played them in the past because I played against him. And this looks kind of similar to that list. Double Morax Regiment, double Long Axe Horde, Gore Rider Regiment, double Orkling Regiment, double War Drums, double Giants, one with a Cleaver and one with a Club, which basically means that's like one with Rampage and one with Slayer. A Mounted Crudger, Godspeaker, and a Crudger on Wing Slasher. So this is our final table we'll be going over for the evening, and let's start with Brad.
like I would say of the Green Lady list, short of Kai's, which is that the pendant horde of Cav, this is the most respectable. Only two ones of Forsaken Cav. It's almost generous. I I will say I think the things that are working in the orcs' favor, or the things that it has going for it, with not having a real weight of Forsaken Cav, the Wing Slasher Crutcher can really kind of have a standoff with them just looking at each other and kind of holding that back. The one Gore Rider regiment also gets to stare at the Speed 8 Cav and potentially hold it back to where this game feels a bit more even. And I think then once lines are stuck in, the orcs are actually a bit more hardy. As crazy as this might sound, I'm actually going to go orcs.
I'm going to go orcs. All right. There's one for Ray Wyatt. Eric.
I am most certainly going with Ray in this matchup. Yeah, so I think the key here is, can the Green Lady get through enough of the orc nerve? I think the Greenskin, if Greenskin Ray can endure some of that early shooting from the lightning bolts from the unicorns, because that's definitely going to put some pressure on. If he can line up the charges correctly and get a nice little counter charge, I could see orcs being a little sneaky here and taking this. Oh man, I'm gonna go with the Greenskins. Let's do it. Let's go, Ray.
All right. I mean, I think this is definitely going to be a tough matchup for Ray Shields. If nothing else. Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, what Ray Wyatt has going for him is the how long the long axe swords are, because you can conceivably have a long axe sword take up 2 tokens at the same time in their unit strength 4, and they have phalanx. So pretty much all the stuff that Ray Shields is going to be punching him with is going to be at a -1 with losing the thunder charge. But I wish both players could win. Just from the guys.
Works.
Yeah. So, but raising the club, going to be a homer. Let's go Ray Wyatt.
All right.
I love both the Rays, man. They're good guys.
That is a clean sweep for Ray Wyatt, playing orcs of all things.
Orcs got a clean sweep. Oh man,
what are we doing? We must be getting punchy. It must be getting late. It's not even that late. Okay, so that brings us to the end of all of the tables. Yes, the lists are on Dropbox. Give me one moment. I can paste it into chat.
Yeah, but so you can just send it to you directly, Gage.
Dropbox link. Hopefully Google will let me actually put that in the comments. It's thinking about it. We'll see. It doesn't want to let me paste a Dropbox link. That's funny. All right, I will try that again in a moment. So that brings us to the end of the table. So now I like to do a little bit of wrap up, a little bit of review to see what our panelists think about the lists they have seen in the context of the greater tournament. So I am going to now run through you guys, asking you a few questions, and I'm going to start with favorite list. And Brad went first for the last table, so I'm going to start with Eric. Just favorite list, not like lists that you think will necessarily perform the best or whatever, just something you like the play style, you like the unique take, whatever it is that tickles your fancy. What's your favorite list of the 44 we've seen here?
I think Brian Swanson with the Carolina Reapers with the Free Dwarf list. When was the last time you saw some Free Dwarfs hitting the table? I think that's a really cool list. And sometimes lists like that can shake up a meta and just come in and be like, how did that list win? Because no one's used to fighting against it. Fast dwarfs. Yeah, that one was the most surprising, and I think my favorite in this match, in this GT.
Cool. Yep, shoot and scoot dwarves are not something you see very often. Steve, favorite list?
I like Adam Mortal's Ratkin Slave list. One, just because I've seen it in person. It's great. It's really well done, but has a real cool gimmick that, again, you don't see a lot of, and which could really, if you're not looking for some of the tricks that it does, you can really be caught out. So I'm going to go with Adam Mortals, Raccoon Slaves.
All right. Brad, favorite list?
I'm actually I'm not going to pick within my club for this one. I'm actually going to go with Danny's Forces of Nature list. I really like Phalanx, the list, if you will, with the amount of verdant choices. I think it's a really strong meta choice, and could come to pass with the amount of green ladies in the room if you can get through the dwarves in round one, or just in future rounds. Even if you don't win round one, you can always shoot up to the podium and off one loss for sure. It's the only Force of Nature list that kind of built around that in mind, while still having a lot of the greater air elemental surge mechanics that make Forces of Nature what they are. I like the direction Danny went with his list quite a bit.
All right. Okay. So now I'm going to ask you guys who you think is going to win Best General. Mountaineers, of course, an overall award that encompasses sports and army appearance. So we don't necessarily know who that is going to be, but who do you guys think is going to pull the highest battle score at this event? Let's start with Steve, and he can tell me why it's going to be either a Goblin player, a Forces of Nature player, or Order of Green Lady player.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with actually one of the Goblin players, Chet. He came real close in at Atlantic City. I mean, he was on top table against Mike round 5. It's a real solid list. It does. I mean, it does what it does really well. So yeah, I'm gonna go Chet.
Yeah, I can see that. Legit. Rad.
I just want to make sure I understood. This is not overall; it's just battle points, right?
It's just battle points. Yep.
Yeah, I actually following a lot of the same logic. I'm actually not going to answer. I'm going to tell you why first. I remember watching the reveal video for ACO, very much still learning what a meta looked like and what things were feared and everything else. And when you all revealed Warren's list, the general groan about that much artillery and shooting from a Goblin's list was then very polarizing. I need to see what that does, kind of thing. So I don't want to just pick the same thing as Steve. I think that's a little boring, but it is my pick. I got to go Chet as well. I think that list is terrifying, and when played well, is horrifying.
Yep. Eric, what do you think?
This is going to be surprising, but I am actually going with clubmate Justin Langle. I think Force of Nature are excellent. I think if a couple things go his way, a decent matchup or two, he's been right there knocking on the door. And I just actually saw him today, and I saw the fire in his eyes, right? So yeah, I'm going with that list, man. He just knows it inside and out. And Mike, you can attest to how good Force of Nature are. Yeah. Oh God, I hate to say it, but yeah, I'm going with Langle. I think this might be his.
All right. Nothing wrong with picking people that came second and third at the last event.
There you go.
I to be fair, did not remember that. I was looking through lists in the days prior and landed on that one as just being gross.
Yeah, no. So the story of the last round top table match at Atlantic City Open was that the terrain map was a gift to me, like signed by Mike Gill. Here, have a perfect fucking terrain map. Because there were two impassables, right? Like straddling each deployment zone, right across from each other in the very center of the table, right? And my army will deploy entirely on one side of that, and his is too wide to do so. And we were playing Super Loot, right? And he picked first, and he picked instead of the one in the middle, which is his only actual choice. That's the only thing he can do is pick the one in the middle, because picking any of the other ones is a mistake that will immediately lose him the match on scenario. And he picked one next to it. So then I picked the one on the far end, which meant now 4 points, and all you needed to win was on one side of that dividing line of two impassable terrains. So I put my entire army over there, except like one little gatekeeper unit to like fuck him up in the channel, and he had to deploy half and half, because that's where like it's a goblin army, it's huge. So my whole army got to fight half of his army basically to win. So that's what I did. If the table had not been that way, if he hadn't picked that objective, or if we had been playing a different scenario, he probably would have cleaned my clock. So I think Chet is a super strong choice. I also think Lingle is a super strong choice. So good advice there all around. Dark Horse. Let's talk about Dark Horse. So this is going to be somebody that maybe has been practicing between like this GT and the last GT and has gotten better, but maybe hasn't the region has not seen that person make a big splash at the event yet. Somebody who doesn't normally finish like on the podium or top 3 for battle, but you think is going to come out swinging this weekend and surprise people. I think I started with Steve last time, so I'm going to start with Brad this time.
Sure. So this one I'm going to stick within the club. It's the players I get to see the most. I know it's necessarily not his first event. I know he's fairly recent to the convention scene as well, but my dark horse, I got to go with Gabe. I think he plays a very, very solid dwarf list, plays it very well at that, and has been playing only that. Hasn't jumped around to factions to try and see what he wanted to land on. I think he had a fairly strong showing in ACO, and I think it's fairly likely that whether it's this event or others, that he only continues on that growth pattern.
All right. So that is Gabe. Eric, who do you think?
All right. So before I give my dark horse pick, I just want to remind you that I don't remember ACO very well. I wasn't even there for the last round, and I had no idea Chet did as good as he did at ACO. So Chet is my dark horse because I think he's just ready, and I didn't realize that he played so well at ACO because I don't remember it. So yeah, Chet was my dark horse. So I'm gonna keep it because
Totally.
I didn't know, but
stick with
prior
it. No
knowledge.
totally. Yeah. Steve.
I'm gonna go make this pick as a not necessarily based on the players, just from his general being known for a has-been. I'm going to go with Mike Austin.
Ooh,
I think he's just you playing one GT a year, but yeah, I think the list is really matches up to his skill level very well, and I think he makes it seem like he had never left, and he'll make some noise.
Yeah, they don't have the pointy ears anymore, but it definitely looks like one of his
it's
old
the same
outfits.
list.
Yeah. I think that's a solid pick. All right, now, let's talk about the cup. So the last thing I'm going to ask you guys is which club is going to win the Cornwell Cup this time around. I'm going to quickly glance over at which clubs have enough people coming and let people know how many they have. I'm looking at the current roster. There are 5 guys from Nerdhammer, 5 guys from Loaded Dice, 5 Battle Pilgrims, 7 Mid-Atlantic Irregulars, 9 Dojo, and 11 Aristocrats.
Ooh.
So those are all the qualifying clubs. Carolina Reapers only have 2 folks, and I don't think there's anybody left available to Merc. I think absolutely everyone is in a club.
I think Kai is a Merc.
Yeah. Kai might be a Merc. Yeah, I think that's right. He is listed as Loaded Dice.
Oh, is he? No, I apologize.
Well, on the roster that I have, he's listed as Loaded Dice, but he is from the Northeast, so he is probably a Merc.
I saw one of I thought I saw one of the drop boxes. One of the club things was just a dash. I could be mistaken.
Yeah, I don't know. Chris filled that out. He may have just asked everybody, like, what club do you want to be in? And if you weren't already in one, like, I didn't think Chuck was a Mid-Atlantic irregular, but he's got Chuck listed as that. So anyway, those are the numbers. Those are the options. So I'm going to start with Eric and go around and ask you guys, who do you think is taking home the Cornwell Cup at the 2023 Mountaineer?
That cup's not coming out of the Nerdhammer Club until well into next year. It's going to be, we're going to take it at Mountaineer. We're going to keep it at Crossroads. We're going to keep it at Nerdhammer GT because we ain't going soft this year with Masters being in the Mid-Atlantic. So I'm sorry, guys. It's just going to be Nerdhammer, 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 Nerdhammer. So good luck.
All right. Steve.
Mid-Atlantic regulars. Joey's back. Joey's my pick for best overall. This is, so Joey's back. Noah's gonna make some noise. Ray's gonna make some noise. So yeah, I'm a regulars.
Like in my opinion, the reason why the dojo lost the cup at ACO is because you are not allowed to bring in outside alcohol to the hall. And if it comes to nuking everyone else around you, there is no one better than Mark Howard and Keith Baker. Our plan is to get you and your entire team drunk, and then to win once all of you are inebriated. Assuming we're in a place where we're allowed to bring in outside alcohol, no one ever has a chance. It's the dojo, and it's not even a question.
All right. As expected, everyone picks their own club. For those of you who have not been to Mountaineer before, it is in a like basement event hall of the hotel. We are not technically supposed to have outside alcohol, but also if you're just cool about it and keep it on the down low, nobody says anything. So if you would like to have outside alcohol in, that's a thing you can do. Just don't necessarily leave it laying out in case somebody from the hotel wanders through to see what's up.
It's West Virginia, man. I saw babies with beers in the walking through the hallways. It's all good.
Yeah, it's not that big.
Yeah, and
It's okay.
you can get so drunk that you get kicked out of a Waffle House at 4 a.m.
Yeah. It is
I
West
forgot
Virginia.
that story.
Just be cool about it. Just be cool about it,
Be cool,
and it'll be fine. So that is that's our show. I would like to thank Brad and Eric and Steve for coming and hang out with me and checking out the matchups for the first round. I would like to thank everybody here for coming and watching us. I would like to thank Chris for putting on Mountaineer again this year. I think it's like the OG Mid-Atlantic event. I think it might be the longest running one at this point. So yeah, Mountaineer GT is coming up this weekend in Martinsburg, West Virginia. It is a great time. It is always a great time. I'm super excited. I'm looking forward to it. I hope everybody else is as well. So till next time, I am your host, Mike Atkins, saying you stay safe out there. And we will see you this weekend at Mountaineer. Good night, everybody.